Hey guys, it's Sim, and this is Wrestling Unlimited. We learned yesterday that QT Marshall will be leaving All Elite Wrestling at the end of the year. It's unclear what he will do going forward, but we do know one thing. QT Marshall was an important figure in the start of All Elite Wrestling, and this is going to be a big loss for the company. With that, we have a couple of updates on his departure. First one here coming from 𝙍𝙀𝙋𝙊𝙍𝙏, as they state the following. 𝙍𝙀𝙋 Wrestling has learned that following Rhodes' departure from AEW, Marshall's backstage influence began to deteriorate quickly. While still liked by many, others closer to those in power were given a chance to work alongside Khan. At the same time, Marshall had become vocal about his desire to work as an in-ring performer rather than a backstage coach. Due to those reasons, everyone I have spoken with in AEW and WWE since Marshall's announcement last night has not been surprised by his decision. Curiously, one of the reasons listed for his AEW resignation was that he felt the company had changed since its inception in 2019 and was now moving in a new direction. Based on those I've spoken with close to Marshall, he was alluding to the fact that he believes AEW is heading in a more NJPW-related direction that is more focused on matches than storytelling. When asked around about why Khan is going that way, one source told me flatly, TK has always liked that style. For what Marshall wants to do now, I am told he is focused on having fun, wrestling, and improving as a performer. Many we spoke with believed that Marshall, being good friends with Rhodes, could be in a position to move into a coaching role at the WWE Performance Center. However, when speaking to those close to Marshall, I am told he is primarily interested in wrestling for WWE, as he has his own successful school where he can train talent. At the moment, he does not believe that WWE will allow him to wrestle and coach, which he may be open to if it were an option. Those we spoke with close to the WWE side said that they were skeptical that WWE will be interested in hiring Marshall strictly as a performer, but were unsure of how much pull Rhodes has at the moment. One person we spoke with relayed how Marshall was hesitant to take some moves the last time he worked for WWE due to issues with his neck. That said, his creativity was highlighted as a plus, and a coaching role was not rolled out. But it was also mentioned how many quality people the company already has in the backstage roles. So basically, he feels like the company is changing in a direction that he doesn't want the company to go, but it's not his call. And it's basically what he said in his tweet yesterday. We do also have another update on this. From Wrestling Purist, as they state the following. In the early days of AEW Collision, QT Marshall made some appearances on the show in QTV segments. However, QTV's time on Collision did not last long, and according to people in AEW, CM Punk didn't want Marshall to be part of Collision and didn't see QTV as a productive part of Powerhouse Hobbs' presentation. Tony Khan took the blame/fall for the removal of QTV's segments, which ultimately damaged Khan's relationship with Marshall. The relationship was fractured, and Marshall felt that there was a lack of transparency in terms of the reason why QTV segments were removed from the Collision. He was of the belief that Punk removed him from the show and didn't believe Tony when he took the fall. Really, there just seems like a lot of QT doesn't like the way Tony's doing things anymore and doesn't want to be involved in that company anymore. QT thinks the company's going in a different direction than it once was when they started and just doesn't feel like that's a company he wants to be a part of. So with that, it is unclear exactly what QT wants to do going forward. Him going to WWE could make some sense, but again, it's kind of iffy on what they would actually want him to do, whether that's be a wrestler or be some sort of like a coach or producer. So with that, if we do hear anything further on what's next for QT Marshall as he leaves AEW at the end of the year, we'll have it for you right here for Wrestling Unlimited.